and full day on the 12th as well until sunset. However, if you consider the night, which is also a permissible time to do slaughter, so there is nothing wrong if the slaughtering is taking place at night time, as long as you have proper arrangement for lighting. So you don't end up cutting vessels in the wrong way or end up hurting yourself or something like that. So in order to avoid that, if the lighting arrangement is there, the slaughtering and sacrifice can be done at night time as well. So that would be the night of 11 and the night of 12. But after sunset on 12, that will be the night of 13. So that will not be the time of sacrifice. So if someone does sacrifice on any of these days, it's permissible. However, the best day is the 10th day, which is Yawm al-Nahar, the first day of sacrifice. The second best option is the 11th day, and the last option is to do it on the third day, which will be the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. So if someone couldn't do it for whatever reason, as it happens in our case here, the slaughterhouses, they usually get booked very fast, so you don't get an appointment for the first day on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Most people, they end up getting an appointment on the next day. So if you are not able to make arrangement on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, then you can certainly do it on the 11th of Dhul Hijjah. And even if that is not possible, then you can do it on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah as well. But take into consideration the night time as well. That's also a valid time. So if you are getting an appointment in the evening after sunset, that's fine as well. You can take it and you can do your sacrifice at night time as well. On the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, regarding the beginning time, you just have to make sure that you are doing it after Eid al-Adha has been offered. So if you are doing it in the city, make sure you have performed your Eid al-Adha and then you go for sacrifice. And if you are living in a village or far away from the city where the Eid al-Adha is taking place, and you have no plan to perform Eid al-Adha, but you do want to make the sacrifice, so make sure enough time has gone by where people who are praying Salatul Eid in the cities or in the towns, they have already performed their first Salatul Eid. So first Salatul Eid is usually done shortly after sunrise. We're going to have the first Salatul Eid here this year at 6 o'clock, inshallah, which is about 45 minutes after sunrise time. So that is the earliest time. So make sure you do not do it earlier than that. If you do it before the time of Salatul Eid, then your sacrifice is not treated as sacrifice, it's just meat, as it happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Some people, they made their sacrifice before Salatul Eid, and they came to the Prophet ﷺ afterwards and they informed him, Ya Rasulullah, we sacrifice the animals earlier in the morning after Fajr, even before the time of Salatul Eid. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, well, that is just meat, you gotta do it again. So that is not accepted as udhiyah, as sacrifice. In some schools of Islamic fiqh, you have to make sure that Imam is the first one to do the sacrifice. Like in the Maliki school of Islamic fiqh, they have to make sure that the Imam of their neighborhood or Imam of their masjid, he is the first one to make the sacrifice, and then the rest of the people can do it. That's why you will see some brothers from Senegal, from Maliki fiqh, they ask the Imam, when are you going to do the udhiyah? Because they want to make sure that Imam does it first so they can do it afterwards as well. So it's an added condition in the Maliki fiqh that the Imam has to be the first one to do the sacrifice. And it goes back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ usually used to be the first one to do the sacrifice, so he would be the opener, and then the Sahaba, they would do their sacrifice as well. The animals that are acceptable in sacrifice, they are of three categories basically: the small animals and large animals. Small animals include goat, sheep, lamb. These are the small category animals, and they can be offered on behalf of an individual only. So only one share can be counted in the udhiyah of a goat, sheep, or a lamb or ram as well. In terms, in cow can be shared by up to 7 people. So there could be 7 separate people who each have a share in the cow, and their sacrifice will be valid. So they're sharing the cost of that cow, and they are going to have each share. The meat is going to be divided into 7 shares. So when you are doing this ijtima'i qurbani, collective sacrifice where more than one person is involved, then you have to weigh the meat afterwards. So whatever meat comes out of that sacrifice, make sure you weigh it precisely, correctly, and then divide it by weight. So if it's 50 pounds of meat, or 100 pounds of meat, or 500 pounds of meat, divide it equally amongst the shareholders. So, and it is also permissible for one person to claim more than one share. So if there are 3 people and they are buying a whole cow, one person can have 3 shares just for himself, and other people can have the remaining 4, or one person can have 4 shares and other people, or 5 shares, and other people can have each 1 share each. So that's also possible and permissible. And camel is also a large animal, and in camel you are also allowed to have 7 people participating in one camel. So 7 shares can be shared by people in the camel as well. These animals have to meet certain age restriction. Camel has to be a minimum 5 years old. If a camel is less than 5 years old, it's not permissible for udhiyah. Cow, bull, they have to be at least 2 years old. If they are less than 2 years, then they are not acceptable for sacrifice. And goat, sheep, lamb, they have to be at least 1 year old. If they are less than 1 year old, then they are not acceptable. The only exception in this case is with the lamb and sheep. If the lamb and sheep is at least 6 months old, but they are healthy enough, fat enough, that they look like 1 year old at least, then they are also acceptable for sacrifice, but at least they have to be 6 months old. So these are some restrictions regarding the animals and the ages that we have to be mindful of. There are some defects that are not acceptable. If those animals have any of these defects, then those animals will become ineligible for udhiyah. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow, inshallah. Jazakallah.